You ready? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavidikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavidikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad-gītā Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. All right, we're going to be on page 662, I believe. Right, Antonella? Text 2 of the chapter? Yeah, 662. Seems, what else? I know we read the first verse. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 19th day of June 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gītā as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 18, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation, text 2 on page 662. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarvakarma Palatyagam Prahus Tyagam Vichakshanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarvakarma Palatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarvakarma Palatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarvakarma Palatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. You want to try this today? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarvakarma Palatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarvakarma Palatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarvakarma Palatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. You want to try? I noticed you were chanting. Not yet? Okay. All right, word by words I'll say, and you can just read along silently. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Kamyanam, with desire, Karmanam, of activities, Nyasam, renunciation, Sannyasam, the renounced order of life, Kavayaha, the learned, Viduhu, know. Sarva, of all, karma, activities, Pala, of results, Tyagam, renunciation, Prahu, call, Tyagam, renunciation, Vichakshanaha, the experienced. Okay. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of all activities that are based on material desire is what the great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyas. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga. Purport. The performance of activities for results has to be given up. This is the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. This will be made clear in the next verses. In the Vedic literature, there are many prescriptions of methods for performing sacrifice for some particular purpose. There are certain sacrifices to perform to attain a good sun or to attain elevation to the higher planets. But sacrifices prompted by desires should be stopped. However, sacrifice for the purification of one's heart or for advancement in the spiritual science should not be given up. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So let's review the question that Krishna is answering here. Arjuna began this chapter with this question. Almighty Armed One, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyas. O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses. And then the answer, as we heard, it says, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyas. And the giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga. So, this definition of sannyas as the renounced order of life, let's see, the renounced order of life. So, sannyasi is like primary or precedes tyaga, meaning that it's before you even do anything, you're either going to be in the mood of sannyas or not. If you do something with a fruitive desire, which practically, that's all the kind of activities that we know how to do originally, then you're not in sannyas. Nyas means renunciation of the desire for the fruits of your activities. It doesn't mean giving up activities. Sannyas, as understood in our disciplic succession, is full of activity. But it's all activity based on fulfilling the desire of Krishna, the desire of the spiritual master. And what is that desire? The desire is basically twofold. That you become Krishna conscious and that you spread Krishna consciousness. And that's why when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, it hadn't really been current in Vaishnava circles. He didn't take sannyas from another Gaudiya Vaishnav. He took sannyas from a Mayavadi because they're the ones who were said to be sannyasis. But what did he do in that sannyas? This was controversial. When he went to Benares, and instead of sitting and studying the Vedanta Sutra, which was what all of the sannyasis were doing there, thousands of them, with the impersonal understanding that the absolute truth is Brahman without features, without any personality, and Lord Chaitanya, he was dancing and chanting in the streets with his associates and whoever else would follow him. And so they criticized him. So what are you doing? You know, this is he thought they were criticizing him, and that's why his devotees were so pained at heart. They asked him to come and see the sannyasi, have lunch with them. Otherwise, he wouldn't go near them, associate with the Mayavadis. But he went there to deliver them, to explain the real truth of the Vedanta Sutra. And it's not that Krishna consciousness means reduction in activity. It means reduction in fruitive activity and engagement in all kinds of activities, mind, body, words, intelligence, everything, connected to Krishna in yoga, basically with the idea of service. And in that service, one finds one's vairagya increasing. And so tyaga becomes easier. In other words, you find you don't really need so many things. And it becomes natural. And so that's why the giving up of the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation or tyaga. But Krishna consciousness is based on giving up the results of your activities for the pleasure of Krishna. So if you even begin, then you're practicing tyaga and you're cultivating sannyas, the internal mood of sannyas, which is that you're interested less and less in performing activities just for your own aggrandizement. And you understand, I don't need so much. You know, I don't need so many things, so many aspirations for material aspirations. Those are impeding my devotional service. Because the whole idea is to gradually purify the heart of those self-centered desires, egotistical desires, and replace them with the desire to serve Krishna, to serve his devotees. And you find that that's really where pleasure lies. When you suppose you have some money saved and you sponsor a feast. Like sometimes the feast is sponsored here, and no one has to go in and pay $5, and everyone is thankful. And if the person is there, please stand up. But even if they're not there, oftentimes they're not even here, but they performed a significant service for the Lord and definitely pleased him, pleased all the devotees, sponsoring the feast, giving prasadam out. And that pleasure that comes from serving Krishna and his devotees can ultimately fill one's heart to such a degree that that's what you want to do forever. And it's possible to do that forever. Whereas the getting and spending and consuming and sense gratification is bound by the limits of the body. And the body is temporary, so that pleasure is temporary. And my favorite verse, I think I'll just surrender and quote it in every class. Yehi sangsparja boga dukkha yonaya evate. Ajatabantan konteya nateshu ramade buddha. Let's see if I can give you the new translation. An intelligent person does not take part in pleasures produced from the contact of the senses with the sense objects. Such pleasures are sources of misery, and they have a beginning and an end, and therefore the wise do not delight in them. Well, what do they delight in? Because it's not that. This is the unique quality of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, of Vaishnavism in general, that you're not giving up the aspiration to enjoy. You want to enjoy the most wholesome pleasure, which has no backside to another result in misery. And this verse explains, Krishna speaking, that all these sense gratifications that you engage in wholly and solely just to enjoy for yourself, they have a bad reaction. If it's fairly wholesome and you're not you're not engaging in drugs or anything like that, which can cause a lot of suffering even in this life, at least in your next life you're going to get born again to try to fulfill the unfulfilled desires. And that birth and disease, old age, disease, and death, these are the four miseries that are inherent in just having a material body. So in that sense, everything you do that's simply self-centered is foolish, because the little pleasure you get from it is going to cause you to get another material body, because there's never enough sense gratification. It always breeds more desire for it. And that will keep you bound in this round of birth and death, which is miserable. It's full of misery. So how can we get out of that? We're going to hear more and more about this tyaga and sannyas. Cultivating the mood of sannyas. Yes, there's an order of sannyasis who are advanced in that, but all of us are meant to cultivate it. And purifying our motive for action and getting it in tune with Krishna's desires. And that's actually the source of the greatest happiness. And it doesn't have a beginning and an end. It may have a beginning because we haven't done it in a long time. It doesn't have to have an end, which is like spiritual. So that's why this is the conclusion of the book. He's going to describe the perfection of renunciation and the perfection of tyaga, and it all culminates in text 1865 and 1866, which I won't mention now. We're going to. That's those two verses practically summarize the whole purport of the Bhagavad Gita. So, if there's no discussion, we'll go on. Yeah. Okay. And you're ready. If you want a question, you have your own mic there. Oh, you have something? No? Okay. If you do, there it is. Text 3. Tyajam dosha vadityeke karma prahu manishinaha yagyadana tapakarma Natyajam miti chapare. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. Notice we have the yajna dana tapa, which we were discussing in the previous chapter. Purport. There are many activities in the Vedic literature which are subjects of contention. For instance, it is said that an animal can be killed in a sacrifice, yet some maintain that animal killing is completely abominable. Although animal killing in a sacrifice is recommended in the Vedic literature, the animal is not considered to be killed. The sacrifice is to give a new life to the animal. Sometimes, the animal is given a new animal life after being killed in the sacrifice, and sometimes the animal is promoted immediately to the human form of life. But there are different opinions among the sages. Some say that animal killing should always be avoided, and others say that for a specific sacrifice it is good. All these different opinions on sacrificial activity are now being clarified by the Lord Himself. Oh, that's a relief. Clarification. And I guarantee that we'll eventually read here that the only sacrifice which is really good in this age is Sankirtan Yajna. No killing of animals involved. Simply dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. Completely wholesome. All right, let's go on. Nishtayam shuname tatra tyage bharata sattama tyago hi purusham vyagra trivada sampakirtitaha. O best of the Bharatas. Now, just before we proceed, just a little lesson on this. You notice it's a long A in Bharata. Now, the king who names himself is called Bharata with a short A. But when you're talking about the descendant of Bharata, which is what a Bharata is. In other words, this word Sayan, which is we kind of learned when we read the Bhagavad Gita first, means descendant. Sometimes called the son. Son can also mean descendant. So that's why Arjuna is a Bharata, because way back he's a descendant for so many generations of this great king Bharata, for whom the whole Indian continent was named Bharata Varsha. So just a little word about that. O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, as the renunciation, that's Tyaga. Renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. Purport. Although there are differences of opinion about renunciation, here the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, gives his judgment, which should be taken as final. After all, the Vedas are different laws given by the Lord. Here the Lord is personally present, and his word should be taken as final. The Lord says that the process of renunciation should be considered in terms of the modes of material nature in which it is performed. So we're back to that, dividing according to the modes. Yajna tapakarma natyajam karyameva tat yajyo danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Purport. The yajnas, or sacrifices, are generally performed for the advancement of human society. What, at the beginning of the purport?
Yeah, the yogi should perform acts for the advancement of...
I think you probably have the latest one. What's the date on yours? This is mine is 2021. Do you have 2022?
No, I have 2014.
Okay.
So
This is this is a revision. I have the revised version.
Okay, sorry.
We should probably get a full set of 2021, the latest version. The yajnas, or sacrifices, are generally performed for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yajna. Should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yajna, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yajna should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. Similarly, charity is for the purification of the heart. If charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advanced spiritual life. Hare Krishna. You know where we are? We're on page 665. Okay. Oh, you had the old one?
I did for the new one.
Okay. And you don't have a new one?
I do.
Oh, okay, we've got a new one. So just one word on this. What I get here is there's a little echo of an issue that came up when Prabhupada was preaching in America. And he found that in the beginning, he kind of had a real preponderance of males. You know, like Jadharani was the only lady for years, for maybe a year at the beginning. But then when he went to the West Coast, he found a lot of enthusiasm, but guys would come in with the girlfriends. So what to do? You know, because that's not going to do. And so Prabhupada said, well, okay, you can get initiated, but you got to be married. And who's going to marry him? Him. So but he's a sannyasi. So he says, well, sannyasi should, you know, he doesn't answer it directly here. But those who know, that Prabhupada said, yes, because this was the only way the movement really could grow, you know, to have these couples come, initiate them, and have them be married in a Krishna conscious way. So Prabhupada himself was performing the activities. When that got back to his godbrothers in India, this was something else. This is scandalous. You know, he'll never succeed. He's violating because it wasn't done in India, you know. But Prabhupada, you know, he made the sacrifice and kind of bent the rules a little bit so that the movement could flourish. And he showed, you know, and then the kind of the, I don't want to say punchline to all this, right? To show Prabhupada was completely right. The movement really took off when, I mean, it took a great leap forward when they got George Harrison involved. So who did that? 3 couples went to England, pioneered. They performed austerities that most brahmacharis could never do, you know, living here and there. And Samasunda, they met George Harrison, and the records were made, and you know, like that. So Prabhupada was proved right, you know. And when eventually he had some initiated Brahmins, they did the marriages, you know. So there are all kinds of sacrifices that are necessary, and most important of which is Sankirtan Yajna. But the main thing is that Yajna, Dana, and Tapa should not be given up, even the intelligent say. When they're done in pursuance of devotional motives, they all have their place, as we'll read here. But also, I think he's going to speak about them in different modes also. All right, text 6. Etanyapi tu karmani sangam tyakva palani cha kartavyani iti me parta nishtitam matamuttamam. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Prita. That is my final opinion. Now, just to clarify, we perform in devotion for all kinds of activities with the desire for a result. I would give an example of washing the pots. It says, well, that's an activity. You know, it has a result. I don't want to. No. If the result is in line with Krishna conscious purposes, that's a great activity. This result means for yourself. It means selfish result. That's what the phala is. You know, when we talk about fruitive activity, you look up the word fruitive in the dictionary, and this means producing a fruit. It doesn't mean selfish, doesn't mean self-centered. But Prabhupada gave it that meaning in context. If you're fruitive, it means that you want the fruit for yourself, and that's why you're performing the activity. But we perform all kinds of activities, and the fruit is for Krishna. And then it's perfect. It's part of devotional service. Okay. So they should be performed. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of fruitive result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Prita. That is my final opinion. That word duty is so important. Purport: although all sacrifices are purifying, one should not expect any result by such performances. In other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. Okay, that's clear. The result is there, but it's for Krishna. But sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Now, what those are and how to perform them, that's why we need instruction. We need from the Shastra and from advanced devotees. Okay. For everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is said that any activity which leads to devotional service to the Lord should be accepted. That is the highest criterion of religion. A devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice, or charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. I think. Okay. So that, you can see this expanded in the movement. All kinds of activities that no one would have dreamed of performing, but they're prescribed and you perform it, and you find yourself getting purified, meaning that those activities which seem to be in such austerities, it starts out as tapasya. But after some time, it becomes the greatest joy. Is it really a tapasya to worship Tulsi in the morning? No. And if you really get into the meaning of it, and it's a blessing, it's great. But just getting up that early in order to be there for it is tapasya at first. But after some time, you adjust your schedule and it becomes second nature. So that's the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness. That which Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote in one of his songs, when I undergo great difficulty in performing your service, that difficulty is my greatest pleasure. Because on a logical, visceral level, when you do something that's really difficult and it's successful in Krishna consciousness, then that's an indication of how much you are committed to develop your love for Krishna. And you can feel the reciprocation. I remember this story, these things stick out in my mind. This is many years ago. I was in Miami, probably 83, 84, 85, like that. So there was a devotee there who's still there. His name is Dharmadas. And one time he was the president, in different roles, he's still there. So he told a story about, in the early days of the Miami temple, it may have been in a different building. His assignment was to prepare the morning sweets, not alone, there was a whole crew, was preparing the next sweets. I think they make the, as they probably do here, the burfi and the sandesh the night before, or several nights, like whatever. So these are standard sweets that we make every day. So one day, but there were more than two of them. There were several others that we generally don't have. There's something called pera. I don't know if anyone's had pera. Used to be a staple. And others. Jalebis, that's usually... Jalebis? No? Okay. That's too bad. Usually on big feasts we used to make jalebis. Anyway, these are all milk sweets. So one day, the other devotees who were helping him, I think there were at least two of them, somehow or other they couldn't do their duty. And it all fell on him. So what am I going to do? Okay, so he stayed up all night making the sweets. And in the morning, he was taking the sweets on the altar, as he usually did, but like I can imagine. So he's only looking, and he looks at the deities, and he's startled. Because their smile is like this, They're smiling. He felt that they were smiling much more broadly at him. And that was a reciprocation, which was worth it, he said. So you would say, oh yeah, he was, hallucinating or something. But no, he was feeling that reciprocation from the Lord. And that in the early days, there's several devotees. I remember reading some of these accounts in the Lilamrita, I think it was, or elsewhere, how you know, to get Srila Prabhupada's smile, you know, which is sometimes this oceanic, you know, made it all worthwhile. All those austerities and book distribution and putting out putting on the Ratha Yatra and staying up late and working so hard. But when Prabhupada smiled and he was pleased and he was delighted with the service, then that made it all worthwhile. So that's bhakti, you know. Okay, where were we? Did I do 9 already? We're on 11 now? Oh. 7, okay. Text 7. Niyatasya tu sannyasa karmano no papadyate mohatasya parityagas tamasak parikirtitaha. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Purport. Work for material satisfaction must be given up, but activities which promote one to spiritual activity, like cooking for the Supreme Lord and offering the food to the Lord and then accepting the food, are recommended. It is said that a person in the renounced order of life should not cook for himself. Cooking for oneself is prohibited, but cooking for the Supreme Lord is not prohibited. Similarly, a sannyasi may perform a marriage ceremony to help his disciple in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. So now, this goes back to the end of purport. If one renounces such activities, it is understood that he is acting in the mode of darkness. Now this is interesting because a sannyasi should not cook for himself. No, you know, probably when he came, if you study, you read the early biography, you know, the Lilamrita, that Prabhupada would always cook for himself. In the 3-tiered cooker he brought with him, he had, what did he have, like dal at the bottom, and the heat would rise and cook the rice. He had this whole thing. So he would, wherever he was, he first went to Pennsylvania. There was a little town, what was it, the name of it? What is it? Butler, Pennsylvania. And he had a few clothes. He would wash them every day, and then he would also cook in that 3-tiered cooker. So was he cooking for himself? No, he was cooking for Krishna and taking the remnants. You see, so in that because otherwise you get the vibes, you know, from whoever's cooking. And if non-devotees are cooking of any kind, then that's not good. So that's why we have our own cooks. Here's one of our main cooks here. Rouse. He works so hard, you know, he's a little bit. So he's, you know, so we feel he's cooking with the right consciousness. The consciousness you cook with goes into the food. The Buddhists know that. I read that, you know, how you cut the vegetables, you know, that all has an effect, right? Isn't it? Isn't that the whole art, right? So that consciousness, oh, this is for Krishna, you see, and for the pleasure of Krishna. It's offered on the altar, and then we take the remnants. And that's a sacrament. You know, the food becomes spiritualized, taking the food in the right consciousness. Oh, this has been offered to Krishna, and your consciousness, this is his blessing. Eating becomes purifying. Otherwise, eating can be very dangerous. Everyone knows we're vegetarians, right? So that's, you know, basic ethics. You know, you can become a vegetarian just because you don't want to kill the cows, or you want to save the earth. You know, we want to save money, or we want to be healthy. But we're vegetarians not for those reasons, although that's, you know, side benefits, but because Krishna doesn't want that, you know, he prescribes what he wants in the 9th chapter, famous verse, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktupaditam ashnami prayatatmana. The word ashnami means I eat, because I'll eat this. So he has these 4 categories which kind of expand. Patram is leaf, pushpam is flower, palam is fruit, and toyam is water. So liquids, you know, milk is very prominent, and the leaves, all kinds of vegetables and things like that. But basically, no meat. You know, these 4 things. And if you prepare it with bhakti and offer it with bhakti, with love, then Krishna will eat it. And then you say, well, if he eats it, then what do we eat? Because it's always on the altar. Sometimes he actually does eat it, this past tense. But he eats it by looking at it. He can see the bhakti in it and taste it that way because it's God. Anything he can do, any function with any of his limbs. If we want to see something, we have to use our eyes. That's what we can't see. So that's the category of foods we'll eat, and that's the category we prepare. And you can prepare thousands of preparations from all those categories, which Srila Prabhupada taught us how to do. Text 8. Dukkhamit yeva yat karma kaya klesham bhayatyajet nakritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga palang labet. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Purport. One who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in the mode of passion. The result of passionate work is always miserable. If a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the result of renunciation. 9. Karyamityeva yat karma niyatam karyate arjuna. Niyatam kriyate arjuna. Sangam tyakva palam chaiva. Satyaga satviko mataha. O Arjuna, when one performs its prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Purport. Prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna, and when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. So this Prabhupada mentions association here, and I was just thinking, every morning we read these scores. If you're anyone who's here at Mangal Artik, after the Mangal Artik, I sit there, and we have basically 3 devotees who go out regularly. And back in the day, I've been here so long, 3 devotees going out. If they did a total of $150, that was good. They would go out and literally approach people and try to present the books. The Bhagavad-gītā is a prominent one, and see if they can interest someone in purchasing the book. And that's called book distribution. But they turn in all the money. In other words, they go out every morning. It's not easy work. A lot of people say no, or laugh at them, and just go on. And so it can be frustrating sometimes. But we have, by some Krishna's arrangement, we have the international book distribution minister living here now, Vijay Prabhu, who I met when I went to Miami in 1983, and in '83 he was leading the book distribution there in Miami. That's 40 years ago, and they would go to the airport every day, and they would do $100, $120, in those days, because we have inflation and everything. But they go out, and if Vijay goes out, they're doing 1,000 a day. And Vijay himself does 400 to 500, and just random people. He sits at a table in the park out here. He says he's never had the best place he's ever had in all these years. Nice park, especially when it's warm and the sun is out, And you have a constant flow of new people. Because the tourists, it's a tourist attraction. And people come to, they come here, so they're always new people. So it's very successful. And it's a perfect example of this. They're working hard, for the cause. They're not attached to the fruit. They're certainly not, keeping the money. They're turning it in. That's why we can read the scores. And with that money, they buy more books. And so, why is that? Well, this is prescribed duty, you know, but it's also, this is what can save people. Now, did you read a book and become interested in Krishna Consciousness? Right. You see, you're a perfect example. If we were in print, now my insignificant role here was help to produce these books all these years, for 50 years. I didn't edit this fully, but I've done a lot of work on the Bhagavad-gītā. We have a different version. That sentence that we read was changed because we researched what Prabhupada actually said and said, oh, this is what he meant. And the first editor didn't get it right, you know, back in 1973 or whatever it was. So that, you know, there's a certain few of us who are involved in production of books, and that's also very fulfilling. They put my name on it. I didn't ask them to, on the 10th canto, 11th canto, and 12th canto of Bhagavatam. There's a whole story behind it I won't tell you, you know. But you know, so I become famous. You know, they had the Russian Bhagavatams, but our names are still in there. They put it, it's a BBT book, you know. Anyway, but I certainly didn't do it for that name and fame. I'm doing it because, Prabhupada wanted the Bhagavatam to be produced, and I had the good fortune just by persisting. I realized one of the reasons I've been able to continue this service so long is that I'm perfectly willing and very happy to do the little, you know, work like, is this the right diacritic? You know, and then I'll research it. The little marks on the letters, you know, and if I find, that's supposed to be a comma here, it's not there, I feel fulfilled, you know, that day, you know. In other words, it's I was very into fault finding, you know, when I was growing up. And fault finding is a no-no. You don't want to find fault with devotees. But this particular activity of proofreading and editing, fault finding is good. You want to find the faults and fix them. And so anyway. So I have my little role to play, but the real heroes are those who are approaching people all day, undergoing austerities, and becoming blissful doing it. Because that's how, you know, by really working hard for Krishna, selflessly, is how you advance in devotional service. All right, let's go. Now, have you noticed how short the purports are? I distinctly feel, I mean, this is just a guess, it's not, I hope I'm not committing an offense, that this is the last leg, this is the last chapter. And Prabhupada really wants to get this book out, you know. If you go back in the second chapter, it's about as long in terms of the page count as this chapter, but it's like half the number of verses. Long purports, you know, and they're very fascinating. So these are all, and then when we get to the latter part of the chapter, with some of the really, you know, conclusive verses, the purports will get a little longer. But so we can maybe do another verse at least. So we did the good mode of goodness one, right? He simply works for Krishna. When he gives up the resolve of Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. Text 10. Nadvest akushalam karma kushalena nusajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medavi chinna samshayah. The intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work, nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness or in the mode of goodness does not hate anyone or anything which troubles his body. He does work in the proper place and at the proper time without fearing the troublesome effects of his duty. Such a person situated in transcendence should be understood to be most intelligent and beyond all doubts in his activities. Text 11. Nahi dehabhata shakyam tyaktum karman yasheshataha yastu karma palatyagi natyagi chabidiyate. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. But he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. Purport. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita that one can never give up work at any time. Therefore, he who works for Krishna and does not enjoy the fruit of results, who offers everything to Krishna, is actually a renouncer. There are many members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in the renounced order of life. It is clearly outlined here how to renounce the fruits of work and for what purpose fruits should be renounced. So this is reflecting what Prabhupada was writing, like for instance, Jayananda, a very legendary devotee who was joined in '67 in San Francisco. And he was older, he was already near 30 when he joined. And he wasn't a hippie, although it was a hippie era. And he was just taken with Prabhupada, and he became a pillar of that temple. And what he did, I don't know how long he did it, but he was driving a taxi all day and supporting the temple in that way. Later on, two things happened. Prabhupada authorized the starting of a business, an incense business called Spiritual Sky Incense, which also included fragrant oils. And various temples started to be supported by that. In fact, my first engagement was filling those little oil bottles, and then when they found out I could drive, I had a driver's license, and I was pretty together, I wasn't, they gave me I was servicing different accounts they had on Long Island. I was like, 2 weeks in the movement, and they had me going out there. And it was a little problematic because that's where I was from. And I had the car, and I said, God, I'm going to sleep on the floor again. So I went home, and I slept in my old bed. And I said, well, look, I have to take this car back. I can't just steal the car. So I took the car back, and then I was praying to Krishna to please give me an engagement. So he did. I literally remember crying before the deities, I guess. So they took me off that engagement, and then they found out I could proofread. So I started proofreading Krishna book. Anyways, the first kind of hesitant steps, in the movement. But so Prabhupada is speaking about that here. He's writing this early in the movement, and some devotees are still working in their jobs. As famously, Satsarup Maharaj and I think Rupanuga had jobs with the city, welfare. They were in New York City. And I know Satsarup, Bhakta Steve had that. And he was working and giving paycheck, and sleeping at the temple. So that's the way it started. But then when book distribution took off, that became the family business. Vaisheshika Prabhu wrote a book on that, how that has sustained a good part of the movement for a long time. And then we had a congregation, Indians, they come, they give Lakshmi. So it's, and when you look at it, Krishna provides, Prabhupada had nothing when he came, and when he first started, it was pretty austere. At one point he's living in an office, and had to walk just to, take a shower. But then after some time of doing that, he came down and he moved up. He got a place in the Bowery. Those who know the Bowery in New York, that's like not the best place to live. But anyway, gradually, and then after some time, he had palaces all over the world. So Krishna provides. All right, so we have to quit in a minute, but I'll leave you with a little poem. All right, let's see. We have a few minutes. So this is 8 verses, they're short, on the holy name. It's originally in Sanskrit, I put them in English. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky, down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. He's the Guru, He's the Father, He's the friend most true. And she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always chant and hear the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Lord Shri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees, whose hearts are fixed in him and free of all impurities, uplift their voices high and sing his name in ecstasy. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity, for people to forget the holy name of Shri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears, just fill them with the name of Shri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the name, just sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. It makes this world appear like bits of straw upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme, divinity and sound. It's filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Inspired to glorify the holy name of Shri Hari, Sri Nilakanta wrote this hymn in Sanskrit poetry. I pray that those who hear this lowly version made by me will chant the holy name of Shri Hari in ecstasy. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Thanks for indulging me. Now, one quick note for those who set up.